About a year ago, I made a video about the best gym accessories, and since then I've gotten even more great accessories, so I figured why not remake that video and include all of the new stuff I've gotten to give you even more ideas for accessories that you might want to have in your home gym or in your gym bag for when you go to the commercial gym. Which brings up an excellent point. All of these accessories will be great for either of those two scenarios. So whether you're going to the gym or whether you're just going to the garage, all of these accessories will be great for you. With this list, we're gonna go in order from least to greatest, factoring in both the cost of the item as well as the usefulness or the versatility that this item adds to your workout. So the better items are gonna be as we go further and further into the video. I do have links to purchase these accessories down in the description below, and I also have links to reviews of most of these accessories down in the description as well. But before we get into the video, hi, my name is Ryan Treadaway, founder of TreadawayTraining.com, where we turn skinny guys into jacked men. If you want more information on body transforming training and nutrition topics every Sunday, consider subscribing. First up, the good old foam roller. These are great for myofascial release, great for getting out muscle knots. They're typically pretty inexpensive, but if you are going to a commercial gym and you're packing a gym bag, this obviously will take up a decent amount of space in your bag. And a lot of gyms nowadays have multiple foam rollers there. So maybe if you are going to the gym, make sure that your gym doesn't have one before purchasing one of these. But if you're working out from home, this would be a great addition to have. Next up is a good old portable deadlift jack. These take up very little space if you're storing them in a home gym, or very little space if you're putting them in a gym bag to go to the gym. And if you're going to the gym, I would probably recommend you go with the dead wedge. It's only about 13 bucks or so. And you could, of course, just use a 2.5 pound plate and roll the plates up onto this for when you're doing your deadlifts, loading your weight for your deadlifts. But this works a little bit better and doesn't really take up a whole lot of space. So if you've never used a dead wedge, I would encourage you to check it out. Next up is simply a boggin. Most people probably already have a boggin laying around somewhere, so this won't cost you any additional money. But what this is good for is if you're doing plate neck curls or plate neck extensions, you can wear the boggin or just place it on your forehead to add a little bit of extra padding so that the plate isn't scratching your head or digging into your head. Squat sponge. And contrary to the name of this item, I actually wouldn't recommend you to use it for squats. I would recommend you to use it for barbell hip thrusts, because as you go up in weight on barbell hip thrust, 2 plates, 3 plates, 4 plates plus, it can be quite uncomfortable to have the barbell digging into your pelvis, and having a squat sponge will allow you to go up in weight without that extreme discomfort of 400 pounds digging into your pelvis. Bench press block. Now, if you're going to a commercial gym, a lot of times gyms will already have a block press block there, or if you're working out from home, you could always go the DIY route and just tape a couple of boards together. But these aren't terribly expensive, and they work a little bit better because it actually attaches to the bar versus having to try to balance a block on your chest or have somebody actually hold the block on your chest. And you can get some that have different depths on the same block, and some of them even have 3 or 4 different depths depending on how you turn the block and attach it. So you can get different heights of block press with just one little accessory. Inversion boots. These things allow you to hang upside down from a pull-up bar, which allows you to do a couple of different things. You can just hang there and use it for spinal decompression. You can do some inverted crunches, or I've even heard of some people doing reverse squats, they call them, to where you're hanging upside down and you kind of do the squat motion, except for you're pulling yourself upward with your hamstrings, which sounds like a pretty brutal exercise. I've personally not used these for that yet. So these do add a little bit of versatility, but they take up a decent amount of space if you're storing these in a gym bag, and they are also 100 bucks. So that's something to consider to balance out the price versus what you get out of it. Pull-up assistance bands. These things are pretty cool, and if you're new to pull-ups and you can't already do a full body weight pull-up unassisted, you can do assisted pull-ups to kind of help you progress to get to that point. So you simply clip this part onto a pull-up bar, and this particular one has 3 different resistance bands on it, and a little place for you to put your feet. And the cool thing about it is, as you progress, you can actually take bands off of this. So you can take off the middle one and do 2 bands, so it's less assistance. Or as you get even further, you can take off the 2 outside ones and just have the middle one for 1 assistance band. And then once you get to the point where you don't need it anymore, of course, you can just put it to the side at that point. And this thing is really cool. But the one thing that I would say against it is just the fact of you can use regular resistance bands to get the same effect, and you're gonna get more versatility out of a regular set of resistance bands. Head harness. And this thing's pretty cool because if you're like me and most other gym going men, you want to just be as big and beefy as possible, and adding thickness to your neck muscles is an excellent way to immediately increase the appearance of muscular size overall. And this thing is a little bit lower on the list because all it allows you to do is to do some neck extensions and neck curls. But if you do want to look more muscular pretty much immediately, adding this into your regimen is an excellent option. A short length of chain. And this thing is a pretty cool little item to have because if you are at a commercial gym or your home gym and you only have one single cable, you don't have a functional trainer or you don't have a cable crossover machine, adding this little chain will allow you to turn several unilateral exercises into bilateral exercises. And so if you're doing leg curls, hamstring curls with a cable, you can now do both legs at the same time. Simply loop this through a clip and then clip each end of this onto your ankle straps. Boom, you can do both legs at the same time. Or you can use this in combination with an ankle strap to do things like reverse crunches or things like that. So there's a lot of nifty little exercises that you can add into your regimen with just this little chain. A barbell eyelet attachment. This thing can be used in combination with a landmine barbell to add a lot of versatility to a landmine setup. Because typically when we're talking about a landmine, your only 2 options are to push or pull on the end of the barbell, or you could add a T-bar handle attachment to it to do rows, but that's pretty much all you can do with it. Whereas if you have this little thing, this simple little cheap, I think it was $15, little setup here, allows you to add any handle that you could possibly want to this. And if you wanted to combine this with the chain that we previously talked about it, so now you can do different bilateral exercises with multiple handles attached to a landmine setup, and your imagination is the limit at that point. Lifting straps. Excellent for allowing you to pull more weight if your grip strength is a limiting factor. And one thing that I will pause and say here with this one in particular is the goal would be to not need to use these. So if you can improve your grip strength to the point where you don't need lifting straps, that would be the absolute goal. But you also don't want to limit your deadlift strength or things like that because your grip strength is lagging. You can work on your grip strength separately to bring your grip strength up and use these to continue doing your heavy rows and your heavy deadlifts in the meantime. You can go with a cheap option like these regular old lifting straps that I actually got for free with a bodybuilding.com order several years ago, or you can go with these excellent VersaGrip Pros, which I have done a separate review on. You can check that out if you'd like. Wrist wraps. These are typically pretty inexpensive and they allow you to help keep your wrist in the proper position when doing heavy presses so that you don't run into any wrist pain, wrist discomfort, anything like that. But that's pretty much all they do. So on to the next thing. Next up is kind of a 2-for-1, and that's going to be elbow sleeves and knee sleeves. Both of them do pretty much the same thing. They'll allow you to keep your joints nice and warm, to reduce any joint discomfort, help to keep the joints nice and safe over the long term, increase joint longevity. And as a little bit of a bonus, they'll actually allow you to lift a little bit of extra weight simply because of that little bit of rebound from the bottom of the bench press and the bottom of the squat. And I would put the elbow sleeves just under the knee sleeves because if you are a power lifter, Depending on what division you're lifting in, you're probably not going to be able to use elbow sleeves, but you will be able to use knee sleeves. Belt squat belt. This will obviously, as the name suggests, allow you to do belt squats, but an extra little benefit here is that this little part right here that detaches, you can actually wrap this around the front of your waist and clip it behind you if you want to do standing cable hip thrusts as well. Next is actually an item that I already gave away earlier in the list, which is ankle straps. If you have ankle straps, you can do things like glute cable kickbacks, you can do cable leg extensions, cable leg curls. If you combine it with the chain that I had mentioned earlier, you can do reverse crunches, you can do 2-leg lying cable hamstring curls. There's just a lot of extra versatility that you can get out of your legs and abs with just these 2 little ankle straps. Next is another item that I accidentally gave away earlier in the video, which is a resistance band kit. With a resistance band kit for $15 at the time of recording this video, you can train literally every single muscle in the entire body. The set that I have came with 5 different levels of tension bands, came with 2 single handles, came with 2 ankle attachments, which I would recommend you to get a little bit nicer ankle attachments than the ones that come in there. Comes with a nice little storage bag, comes with a door anchor so that you can anchor the bands at different heights. And again, you can train every single muscle in the body with just a $15 set of bands. Now, if you're going to a commercial gym and you have cables, or if you're working out from home and you have a cable machine, then the resistance bands mostly become obsolete because cables are superior to bands. But with bands, you can still do some pretty cool things like add extra tension on certain exercises, like, banded bench press, for example, and add that band tension to have that accommodating resistance added to regular exercises such as barbell exercises or dumbbell exercises. Next up is an item that I still think is one of the most clever yet beautifully simple pieces of equipment that I've ever seen, and works especially well for people who are working out from home, which is the monkey feet. And they simply just allow you to attach a dumbbell, the handle goes right here, attach a dumbbell to your foot, which adds an exorbitant amount of versatility. You can do kickbacks, you can do abs, you can do leg extensions, you can do leg curls, you can do weighted pull-ups. Basically, your imagination is the limit when it comes to the monkey feet. Personally, I bought 2 of them, well, had 2 of them sent to me, but you can still get a lot of versatility out of just owning one of these. Next up, blood flow restriction bands. These things are particularly good if you're dealing with achy joints and or if you don't have a lot of weight available to work with, because what these allow you to do is they allow you to get a similar muscle growth stimulus with a lighter weight as if you were using a heavier weight, which is great again if you're dealing with injuries or if you simply don't have a lot of weight available at your home gym. And I have a couple of different options here. This is an excellent budget option. These are the Ronin Razor Wraps. These are, I believe, about 20 bucks. And then these are the Saga Fitness wraps, and these are automatic blood flow restriction cuffs that actually come with a free smartphone companion app, and you can dial in the exact amount of pressure that you want to have on your limbs with these blood flow restriction cuffs. But either of these 2 options will do the same basic thing, and they're an excellent addition to your gym bag or to your home gym. Chalk or liquid chalk. These are gonna allow you to lift more weight when it comes to doing heavy pulling exercises, whether that be deadlift variations or row variations. This is gonna help you to get a better grip on the bar or on the dumbbell and allow you to lift more weight. Now, depending on if you're at a commercial gym that doesn't really like using regular chalk, or if you're working out at home and you don't want to have to clean up your own regular chalk, an excellent secondary option is the liquid chalk, which is not quite as messy, and some gyms will allow liquid chalk but not regular chalk. Or again, if you're at home, you can do this and not have to clean up quite as much of a mess. Deadlift shoes, specifically Sabo Deadlift Pro. When it comes to deadlifts, you want your feet as close to the floor as possible. You don't want a wedged shoe or anything like that, simply because you don't want to increase the distance that you have to travel with the bar to complete the lift. And additionally, you don't really want to use sneakers either, because the purpose of a sneaker or a running shoe is to absorb the force that's being pressed upon them. Whereas with the Sabo Deadlift Pro, they're so thin that it almost feels like your foot is touching the floor. So it allows for maximum force transfer into the ground, and it's not creating any extra distance that you have to pull the weight, but at the same time, you get the benefit of, one, if you're a power lifter, you have to wear a shoe, and then two, even if you're not a power lifter, if you're lifting on maybe a hardwood platform or a slicker surface, you have the grip of having a fully, soled shoe. Next up, pretty much the exact opposite of a deadlift shoe, an Olympic lifting shoe, because these do have a 3/4 inch wedge, which with a deadlift would be a bad thing because it's increasing the distance that your body is off the floor, but is really good for other exercises like squats, especially if you're doing a low bar squat. It'll help you to be able to more easily hit parallel, and will also have the benefit of this extremely hard bottom fully transferring the force into the ground. Or when you're doing an exercise like bench press, when you want to get your legs further up under your body to increase the amount of leg drive that you can use so that you can lift more weight. And then this will allow you to keep your feet on the ground, fully on the ground, while pulling them in closer under your body. Next up is a good old 4-inch non-tapered lifting belt. A lifting belt gives your body something to press out against so that when you're bracing your core, you can brace out even harder, which creates a more rigid surface throughout the spine, which will protect your spine from injury and also allow you to get a little bit more weight. Good old trusty wireless headphones. These specifically are the Jabra Elite Active 75Ts, which are drop resistant, sweat resistant, they're active noise canceling. So basically everything that you're gonna want in a nice set of gym headphones. They're normally 180 bucks, but I have seen them plenty of times on sale for, I believe it's 99. I believe that's what I got these at. So not a terrible price at all for what you're getting, and of course, you need to have your tunes while you're working out so you can get nice and pumped up, get those big lifts. Last but definitely not least is a good old handy dandy training log. And before you click off the video, hear me out on why this is so important. And as an honorable mention, I would say that you could also use a tracking app on your phone as well, or if you have a coach like Treadaway Training, will have an app for you to use that you can log and track in as well. And the reason why it's important to have a record of your training log is to ensure that you're making progress so that you'll actually move towards your goal. You can simply look back at an earlier date and say, I did bench press 3 sets of 10 with this weight on this date, and then now I'm using this much weight for the same amount of reps. And you know that you are improving over time. And another benefit to having a training log as well is if you have an exercise that you've cycled out for a while and then you come back to that exercise, you don't really know, well, how much weight was I doing previously? It's been a year since I've done this exercise. You can simply flip back in your little book here and be like, oh, the last time I did a cable hip thrust was this date and I used this much weight, so maybe I'll drop a tiny amount of weight off of that and then I'll start from there and then start building up. So it keeps you pushing forward, and just seeing a previous weight that you've logged and having that starting point of where you left off last without even realizing it, will actually help to propel you forward. Whereas you might just get in the routine of like, oh, I'm doing this exercise, I'm gonna grab a 50-pound dumbbell, when in reality, you know, hey, I did 50 pounds last time and I wrote in my log that it was actually a little bit easy. So I should start with 55 pounds this time instead of 50 pounds. So simply the act of logging your workouts, I know I'm going a little bit long on this one, but it's the most important one. Simply logging the workouts is going to propel you closer to your goal, and it's going to be more important than any of the other accessories that I've mentioned in this video. I do have individual reviews for most of these pieces of equipment, so you can check out the links for that down in the description, and I also have links to purchase all this equipment down in the description as well. As always, God bless you and your family, and we'll see you next week. Next is a resistance band kit, which is one that I also Next up, squat sponge. That's what it is, all right.